when you pass your Miami Heat body fat test and get ice cream that night. 7'2", 60 pounds, 6%, hashtag TikTok.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today we are going to be recapping all of the games, all 8 of them from Monday, and then previewing the games on Tuesday. Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Indeed. Let's start with the first game of the night. The New York Knickerbockers, your New York Knickerbockers, get the win over the Houston Rockets, 125-123. They're up big. The Rockets came back hard at the end and ended up just losing. Jimmy Harden, in 39 minutes, had 35 points with 8 assists and 4 steals. He shot horribly. He was just 3 of 13 from 3, 36% overall, but a perfect 16 of 16 from the line and getting those peripheral numbers, while Bob Covington, 20 and 13 with 6 triples. Big night for him. 2 steals and a block, and he continues to be absolutely ridiculous. He is the 22nd ranked player over the last week. Westbrook twisted his ankle early on in this game, first minute or so, but played through it. 37 minutes, 24, 9, and 3. Not his best night, and the free throws didn't go down the same way they usually did. While Danny House had a strong game. 20 points, 4 triples, 1 steal, 2 blocks. I think House should keep starting over Eric Gordon, but I don't think that he is a 12-team guy. He's more of a 14 to 16-team league player. Macklemore had 9 points. Eric Gordon had 11 with 3 threes, while PJ Tucker was rough. 0 points, only took 2 shots, had 5 rebounds and 3 assists. He has the occasional big game, but to me, he's more of a streamer, more of a 14-team league guy than someone that is absolutely a must-roster 12-teamer. For the Knicks, of course, Mitch Robinson played only 24 minutes. Now, he didn't have foul trouble, and we're talking about the Rockets and their small ball lineups, but the solution to that surely isn't playing 24 minutes of Taj Gibson. It wasn't. I would have thought Bobby Portis could have been out there to stretch them a little bit more, but you still take it. You know there's going to be dim-wittery from this Knicks team at times, but 12 and 13 from Mitch is okay. Not much else happening there. He was still a +5 on the night, and at least his usage bumped. Taj had 8 and 10 in his 24 minutes, while Punch Bob had 15 and 5 in 18. Big game from Rowan Barrett, 27 points in 30 minutes. 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Of course, he was not good on the free throws, but 56 from the field on 18 attempts is massive. We know his struggles. In points leagues, he's fine. In category leagues, just wiping out those 2 categories can be tough. But depending on your squad, he might have value. He also might not, but he's not a must-roster guy because of that. They dusted off the Duke Wayne Ellington for 19 minutes and 15 points, all from 3. He also added 2 blocks, but I don't think we trust that. While Lord Alfred Payton was pretty bad, 4, 6, and 6 with 2 steals. Now, I say pretty bad. He only played 19 minutes. But 6 assists and 2 steals is getting it done. He didn't shoot very well in this game. They went with a lot of Barrett at point guard and Ntilikina out there as well, who had 11 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals. I think Peyton is still a hold. Maybe in 10-teamers you consider him a drop, but I think he's still someone that we hold on to. Frank is only a deeper league add. Julius Randle had 16 and 16. They were his spin moves attempted. He also had 16 points and 16 rebounds with 4 assists. Poor shooting night from Randle, but otherwise things were pretty okay for him overall. In this game, which is always a bonus to say for Julius Randle. Let's move on now to the next game. Looking at the Portland Trailblazers, they had a very, very big victory over the Orlando Magic, 130-107. Christian James McCollum had 41, 5, and 5 with 6 threes. If your league's trade deadline hasn't passed, you've got to sell him high because it's all coming because Lillard is out. Well, Gary Trent was also great, 24, 4, and 2. Big usage, big efficiency, no way of that sticking. Hassan Whiteside, only 27 minutes for Whiteside. But 16 and 13 with 2 blocks is pretty good production, while Mario Hezonja.
It's me, Mario.
10 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 28 minutes, Was this a hashtag revenge game? One thing I'll tell you for sure is that they gave him all these extra minutes and really limited Nasir Little and Wenyen Gabriel to be only junk time players because it was against his former team. Now, I don't think we rely upon anything here for Hazonia, but it was good to see him produce. Trevor Ariza had 11 points on 10 shots, but he hit 2 threes and he got a steal, and that is exactly 100% the reason that you roster him, while Mallow had 10 and 8. Mallow's a pretty clear 10-team and 12-team league drop to me. For the Magic, there was no Aaron Gordon, so Gary Clark started. Cool. 5 points on 3 shots in 29 minutes for Clarkey, while Vooch had 30 and 11, and Terry Ross had 23 and 5. I think Ross has still got that back-end 12-team league appeal. Fultz only 24 minutes for Fultz, 7, 3, and 10. He did struggle a little bit, committed some dumb fouls, and Steve Clifford didn't like that. And that gave DJ Augustin some more minutes. Augustin shot horribly, 2 points on 7 shots with 7 assists. I don't think that Fultz is a drop based on this. I don't think Augustin is an ad, but it's interesting the move that they did make there. Fournier was horrible as well, 13 points in his 30 minutes, and Jimmy Ennis 10 points on 10 shots with 4 rebounds. Ennis remains a deeper league player at this point rather than someone we need to look at in standard formats. All right, let's move on to the next game now. Which game are we looking at here? This is the Utah Jazz and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Jazz win 126-113. Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert.
20 and 9 for Gobert with 5 blocks, 89%, absolute monster from him. Donovan Mitchell was scoreless throughout the first 14 minutes he played, ended with 19, 9 and 4, while Bojan Bogdanovic, who's been really quiet of late, 28, 7 and 6 with 5 threes. Now, if you roster Bojan Bogdanovic, you know that those 6 assists and 7 rebounds are about a month's total for him, so don't get too excited, but good to see the scoring back. Jingling Joe had 8 assists. He's an assist streamer. That's it. He took 2 shots only, while Conley had 15, 2 and 6, and still remains a 12-team league guy. Jordan Clarkson, we talk about him a lot. He was on that massive hot streak where you roster him, and then he's done that so many times in his career that you know it's going to cool off, and it's cooled off. And over the last week, he's outside the top 140. He had 13 points in his revenge game in 25 minutes. Nothing to see with him outside of just being a point streamer behind the likes of someone like a Terrence Ross in that sort of a category. For the Cavs, the Padawan Collin Sexton, 32 points in 39 minutes, 4 triples, 3 assists, 3 steals, 65% shooting. He has been really, really good. The 48th ranked player over his last 20 games. Really strong stuff from Sexton after a poor start to the year. Really good game from him. While Larry Nance, with no Thompson, no big avocado, we saw Nance play 39 minutes and have 16, 8 and 8 with 2 steals and 2 threes. We know that he's good. It's just about getting him the minutes to get that value. He should be a 12-team league guy. Love had 22 and 9, while Kevin Porter had 16, 4 and 4 in a start for Garland. 41 minutes for Porter, a must-roster player across 12-team leagues. Osman did very little in his 39 minutes. Well, if you're looking for assists, Matty Dellavedova played 29 minutes, 9 assists. Now, that only holds if Darius Garland remains out with this groin injury, which we don't know. But if he is, then someone like Dellavedova could be someone that you'd look at to stream in just for assists. Ante Žižić played the backup role behind Nance. He was pretty poor in that role that he played in this game. All right, now on to the next game we go. Which one are we looking at here? It is the Milwaukee Bucks, a surprising loss to the Miami Heat on a back-to-back 105-89. Miami gets the win. It came out during this game that apparently Eric Bledsoe is ill. Hence, he played 21 minutes here. He played 22 minutes last game. 7 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals for Bledsoe. It was also a rough night for Giannis Antetokounmpo. 13 and 15 in 31 minutes, but only 33% shooting, mainly because he missed all 4 of his threes, but then he couldn't finish at the rim. In the paint, he was 5 out of 10, and normally he just dominates in there. Actually took some mid-range 2s as well, and he was 1 of 4 on outside of the paint shot. So a poorly efficient night from Antetokounmpo. Lopez is pretty good, 21 and 6, while Chris Middleton in his game back after suffering that neck issue, 12 and 7 in 28 minutes on 25% shooting. So just a terrible night in general for the Bucks. The big ragu, Dante DiVincenzo, was pretty good, 11, 5 and 3 in 27 minutes. I still really think that he is going to be the starter next season and going to be a top 100 guy consistently. So that would make him an interesting dynasty type of guy. 12 points for George Hill in 24 minutes. For For the Heat, Adebayo was great, 14 and 13 with 5 assists and 3 blocks, apart from his shooting, which was also poor, while Butler had 18, 6 and 7. Kendrick Nunn started out pretty well, faded, but ended with 13 and 8 in 33 minutes. Poor efficiency numbers, only 2 assists. The minutes are still up. Tyler Hero's minutes are going to have to come from somewhere. Nunn is a 12-team league guy for now, but even so, he's not the greatest option, I don't believe, and I do think we're going to see him drop off. While Jay Crowder played 30 minutes and had 18, 4 and 4.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
He shot the ball well, but he's only really a 14-team league guy. Iguodala continues to be minimized. 13 minutes for Iguodala. Maybe he loses all of his minutes when Hero comes back. That's a possibility. While the Spur Dunk Robinson had 3 threes, and that's it. And Derek Jones was bad, 4 and 4 in his 18 minutes with no defensive numbers. He is not a 12-team league player, despite the fact that over the last week he is a top 100 guy. That's not someone that I'd want to care for. Well, I care for him. I care for all of these players. I just don't want him to be on my 12-team league fantasy squad. The next game was an absolute ass-kicking. The Grizzlies almost 40-point victors over the Hawks on the road, 127-88. Josh Jackson, one of the most hilarious missed dunks you'll ever see on a breakaway. Not only missed the dunk, didn't even hit the rim at all, just smashed it straight into the backboard. But that line is fantastic. 16, 3 and 4, 2 steals, 3 blocks and 4 triples. Great stuff. He is still outside the top 150 over the last week, including this game. The minutes are okay. It's making him like a 14 to 16 team league streamer. Tyus Jones had a nice game, 15 with 9 assists and 4 steals. He's that interesting assist streamer too, while Jonas Valanciunas couldn't go for 3 in a row, 20 rebound games, ended with 15 and 15. Because it was such a blowout, we got more Gorgie Jeng minutes, 17 and 10 with a steal and a block. He does have that sort of back-end 12-team league value, although he has been relatively disappointing. While DeAnthony Melton, it doesn't seem to matter that he's starting. His minutes are low. 11, 4 and 4 with 2 steals is fine, but only be viewing him as a steals streamer. While our mate John Concha, 10 and 7, 2 threes, a block, 20 minutes, a couple of blown alley-oops, but he continues to just put up ridiculous numbers in limited minutes. Absolutely someone that deep leagues need to watch. Morant was pretty poor, but only played 24 minutes, while Anthony Tolliver debuted, played 19 minutes, hit 4 threes and 12 points in those minutes, at least for deeper leagues if you're looking for some points and threes. While the injuries to Clark and Jackson and Winslow persist, Tolliver could have some value there, while Dylan Brooks was rough as shit. 13 points on 17 shots, at 29% for those of you without a calculator. He was at 111 as well, which is okay, but he's been rough of late. There's no doubt about that. Not a must-roster player to me. For the Hawks, there was no Capella, no Dedmon, no Reddish, no DeAndre Bembry. So Fantapan's Kevin Huerter had a second strong game, 13, 5 and 4 with 2 steals and a block. We don't know what happens when everyone returns, so Huerter is an ad for now, or a must roster for now. Young had 19 points, but only 2 assists, while Johnny Collins was pretty poor as well, 12 and 3. It was just a bad night for everyone, including DeAndre Hunter. Now, at least Hunter gave us a steal and 2 blocks, and he is not known for that, but 6 points on 27% shooting. We've talked about how he's just so wildly inconsistent with the shooting numbers, making him a hard 12-team roster. Bruno Fernando, 2 points in 23 minutes starting for Reddish. He was 1 of 8, and he has been really disappointing so far this season. On to the next game we go. The Dallas Mavericks narrowly failing to get over the Chicago Bulls, despite the Chicago doing everything in their power to lose the game at the end. The Bulls win 109-107. There was no Kristaps Porzingis and no Seth Curry. So Maxi Kleber started, played 34 minutes and had 13 and 10 with 3 blocks and 3 threes. A really, really good line. Of course, he's not going to be able to continue that when Porzingis comes back, but on the nights where KP has to sit, Kleber's worthy of a stream. So is Boban Marjanovic, who had 14 and 12 in his 22 minutes, but he just goes back to doing nothing on those nights when Kristaps is back. While Timmy Hardaway had 26 points. A lot of shots for Hardaway, absorbing Porzingis' usage here. Finney Smith hit a late 3 to get the Mavericks back in at 18 and 7 with 3 triples. 70% shooting is not reliable. He's a 14-team league guy. Well, Doncic wasn't good. 23, 5 and 9, 20 shots, 40%, and then 67% from the line. Courtney Lee, a surprise starter, did nothing. That's not the surprise. While Delon Wright was rough. 0 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists and a steal. He's been one of the biggest disappointments of the season. For the Bulls, Kobe White, that insane efficiency was never going to be able to stick, but he's still getting the minutes and he's still getting the shots. 19, 6 and 5 on 20 shot attempts. He's a 12-team league guy, but let's just talk about the big story here. Otto Porter, back in action. He's still apparently really good. Only played 17 minutes, had 18 points on 64% shooting. Now, Porter is never going to be a 28% usage guy, nor will he be a 64% shooting guy, but it's good to see him back. The part of the problem with Porter has been like, take some bloody shots. Like, why aren't you shooting? Why is nobody getting you the ball, on your 13, 14% usage? So that 28% stands out like dog's balls, as does the 64% shooting. Now, of course, Zach LaVine was out, enabling more shots to go to Porter. But if he is on your wire, Otto, he's worth a stream. He's not going to play 32, 33 minutes a night, and this was not going to be what he does moving forward. But he's an ad guy for now. The Hammer Denzel Valentine, 17-4 in 21 minutes, replacing Zach LaVine. He should just be starting all of these games ahead of Shaq Harrison and Ryan Archer-Jacquino. Ideally, of course, we just put LaVine and Porter in there, but who knows what the old thumbhead Jim Boylan is going to do. Thad Young, 12-9 in his 36 minutes. His value is going to dip when Markkanen returns, while Wendell Carter Jr. Some curious comments from Carter in the media saying that he wants to go to the Bulls and ask them to play at power forward. Like, what position does he think Larry Markkanen plays? Because Markkanen sure as shit can't play center. Carter thinks that he's a power forward. He's not. He's a center. I don't know what he... This is a bloke who shoots 20% from three, and I think he can be a better three-point shooter than that. The Bulls don't want him to shoot three, so that's going to be... And, of course, in true Bulls fashion, they'll just do whatever is wrong for the team. So that was an interesting thing for him to come out and say in the media that he wants to play power forward. Does he just want Markkanen off the team? Do the Bulls want Markkanen off the team? Does he not, like most players in the league, understand what his best position is? That's interesting. As for Carter, 7-6 in 23 minutes. It looks like it's going to be a slow road back to good minutes for him. I already mentioned that LaVine was out. Shaq Harrison played 16 minutes. 2 steals, that's what he's good for. Archer-Jacquino played 20 minutes. He had 10-6 and 100-plus hustle and grit points. I'm not sure if your league counts those, but if they do, we know that Archer-Jacquino is right up there, league leaders, along with Matty Dellavedova. So good for the Bulls to get that win, of course, and good for Porter to play like that, but obviously some regression is going to be coming from Otto after that massive, massive game. The Indiana Pacers, they get the victory over the San Antonio Spurs. They were down in the fourth quarter, the Pacers, but get the win 116-111. Another good Miles Turner game, really coming on strong at the right time of the year. 17-5 with 4 blocks, while Sabonis had 14, 11, and 5. And Brogdon, who has been outside the top 150 over the last 20 games, Brogo, 26, 6, and 7. There was no Victor Oladipo, so I guess that helped a bit. And Tony Warren Jr. had 23 and 7. Aaron Holiday started for Oladipo, 6 points with 2 threes and 3 assists. His value is obviously not there and is nowhere near a 12 or even 14 or probably even 16 team league guy. Well, Justin Holiday just did enough to be like a 14 team league player. 11 points, 3 steals and 3 threes. He's in the Trevor Ariza mold of players. You need some steals, you need some threes. That's what Juzza is going to give you. For the Spurs, there was no LaMarcus Aldridge again, so they started good old Drew Eubanks. They just refused to play Keldon Johnson or Luka Samanic or Chimezie Metu. Eubanks did nothing, 3 points in his 17 minutes, but Trey Lyles was great again. 37 minutes for Lyles, 20 points, 4 triples, 1 steal, 2 blocks. The Spurs play again tomorrow, so Lyles is absolutely is a stream option, but his inconsistency has been, or not, no, sorry, that's not true, because he's been consistently shit all season, but he's turning it on now. The 69th ranked player
Giggity.
over the last week. Obviously, that's good. Patty Mills, he does this occasionally. 24 points, 6 triples, 3 steals, and then he'll do nothing in the next game. He has this one big game where he goes off. That's always why he can be a GPP guy in DFS tournaments, but you can't rely upon this. Murray had 11, 7, and 4, a maximum. Derek White, 6, 3, and 5. It was a very, very quiet night from DeMar DeRozan. 10 points on 10 shots with 6 rebounds and 7 assists. Of course, he will bounce back. While Rudy Gay was fine, I'd still probably prioritize Lyles over him to stream. Gay is a deeper league option. He had 13 and 4 here, while the drip Lonnie Walker had 10, 4, and 3. Hit all of his shots. Massive dunk as well in 20 minutes for Lon. Probably not much of a fantasy option this season, and maybe not even next season. We have to see what the off-season brings there. Let's have a look now at some injury news before we move on. Aaron Gordon missed today with that knee injury. There's a little bit of worry about the messaging coming out and what he's saying, how getting that swelling down. I suspect he'll miss a couple more games here. While Oladipo, just another reminder, guys who are out long-term to begin the season, in general, they are rough to add. I saw so many people drafting Oladipo in the 70s too early. drafting Nurkic at all, and drafting Klay Thompson, and none of those work out. Maybe there are examples I'm forgetting, not from this season, from past seasons where it works out, but in general, it does not. Zach LaVine missed today with a quad injury. Reports are he was limping pretty heavily in the locker room, so maybe he misses a couple more. We'll see there. Well, Anthony Tolliver, as I touched on earlier, just signed with the Grizzlies, and he was immediately into the rotation. Devontae Graham's going to miss tomorrow's game for the Hornets, so minutes are opening up there. Malik Monk suspended, so is it Cody Martin going to be in there? Caleb Martin? Are they going to dust off Dwayne Bacon? Is Nick Batum going to return? Let's keep an eye on the news to see who gets in. I think it'll be the Martins who really benefit the most, and that gives at least some stream value with a real chunk of usage opening up there. You're going to get Miles Bridges jumping up and Terry Rozier stepping forward as well. Let's move into DFS now. We're looking at DraftKings pricing for the games that we take a look at for Tuesday. All right, let's take a look at the first game. The Spurs and the Hornets. The Spurs, the only team on a back-to-back for this Tuesday slate of games after they played on Monday. They're unlikely to have LaMarcus Aldridge again, so you're going to get a mix of Drew Eubanks. You're going to have no Jakob Poeltl too. Drew Eubanks, Rudy Gay, filling in those minutes alongside Trey Lyles. For Charlotte, Devontae Graham is allegedly doubtful with an ankle injury. They're already without Malik Monk, so you're probably going to get Cody Martin or Caleb Martin having to fill in there. Maybe they dust off Dwayne Bacon or Nick Batum as well. So there's some real interesting options here. We're looking at DraftKings pricing. Terry Rozier is at 6,100. He's going to get a lot more shots with Graham out, so I think he's worth a look. Bryn Forbes is not, while maximum Derek White at 4,400.
Maximum Derek.
It's hard to get too excited about White, just given the inconsistencies in his play this season. DeJounte is at 5,700. I feel better about him, but on a back-to-back, I'd probably leave him alone. At shooting guard, you've got the Martins. Caleb Martin's a minimum salary $3,000 guy. Cody Martin is $4,100. Now, Martin has been by far the best performed Martin of the season. Cody Martin, that is, has been the best performed Martin out of these two. But at an $1,100 price difference, maybe Caleb is the guy that you can use value on. I still wouldn't want to trust Caleb really in a cash lineup, maybe for tournaments. Cody, I feel a little bit better about getting to that 20-point mark. DeMar DeRozan's at 7,400. That looks like a pretty good cash option to me. And then you got the drip, Lonnie Walker at 3,100. Look, maybe, but that's just a real sort of stab in the dark. At small forward, Jalen McDaniels, also a minimum salary guy. We might see some extra minutes with him in this one too. But again, he has been a little bit up and down with his level of production, as you'd expect from a second-round pick. But at $3,000, he could be a 25-point guy, which is really good value at that sort of salary. Miles Bridges at 55, I like him significantly here, while Rudy Gay at 47, as I mentioned, with Aldridge likely sidelined. Gay could be an option, but the back-to-back might be a factor in his playing time. For your big men, I don't expect Cody Zeller to start again, so Bill Hernan-Gomez at 3,800. He could get 20 plus, which is good value for us there. Eubanks at 31 is an option, but not a great one, while Biyombo at 4,300. Looks like he'll be a solid enough cash play, under the assumption that Zeller doesn't play. Paul Washington's at 51. I think that's really good for cash as well, while Lyles at 5,200. That is pushing up a little bit there for Trey. He has had some inconsistent and some shit moments this season, but I think with the lack of big men here in San Antonio, he's going to be at least worth an option in a tournament. The next game that we take a look at, we're looking at the Brooklyn Nets. They are taking on the Boston Celtics in Boston. This, of course, is the Billy King Bowl. The first thing we need to look at here is Kemba Walker has been upgraded to probable, but he will be on a minutes restriction. He will also sit out the second game of this back-to-back, while Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart are both questionable and missed practice with an illness, while Garrett Temple on the Brooklyn side is questionable with a shoulder injury. If Tatum and Smart both miss, you're going to get Romeo Langford, I would assume, push into minutes, maybe some Shemi Ojale, but most importantly, more minutes for Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown, who'll take on a much larger role and provide some pretty good value for us. At point guard, Dinwiddie at 7,500. Looks to be a pretty good spot to me, averaging 42 over his last 3 games, while Levert's at 72. Now, last game was an absolute stinkfest from Levert. He had just 25 in that one, but prior to that, he'd been pretty good. Now, this matchup is a tough one. But is that offset by him dropping $1,000? I have to think that it is. So he is in play. While Marcus Smart at 73, yes, Kemba is likely back. But if we hear one of Tatum or Smart being ruled out, if we hear that Tatum's ruled out and Smart plays, that does help Marcus in this one. Otherwise, he'd probably be a fade. And 73 for Kemba is a strong fade on a limited minutes scenario. Wanamaker Could also get a boost if Smart is out, but I wouldn't want to use him in DFS. Smoking Joe Harris is at 4,900. He's been okay, but again, not a great DFS option. Jalen at 71, love that. And that could really be boosted if we have both Tatum and Smart out, or at least one of them. So Jalen looks to me to be a good strong option. Garrett Temple probably not doing it. At small forward, Tatum's at 9,600. That is pushing to be a little bit too high, but this guy dropped 65 last game. He's averaging 56 over the last 5, but just with an illness makes you think that 9,600, maybe he's a little bit below his best and then can't get to that level. So I think we'd end up fading off of him. While Gordy Hayward at 74, things could really open up for Hayward here if Tatum happens to be sidelined, because we've seen Hayward really sort of step back and take that back seat. And if Tatum's out, then he will take the front seat, of course, in using my car analogy. For your other small forwards, Grant Williams, Luwawu Cabarro, probably not. For your big man, Daniel Tice at 5,500, absolute rock-solid cash option, while Jarrett Allen is the opposite of rock-solid. But at $5,000, there is 35-point upside in Allen, and if he stays on the court and we don't get DeAndre Jordan cameos, then Allen can really beat that number pretty easily. So he's a good tournament guy. Enes Kanter is neither of those things, while Jordan at 54, we can spend better money. In fact, spending $5,000 on Jarrett Allen is significantly better than spending $5,400 on good old DeAndre Jordan. The next game we take a look at here up on this slate for Tuesday is the Clippers and the Thunder, the Paul George Bowl. The Clippers are 3-point favorites and the total is 226. Danilo Gallinari, the Italian cock.
Hands off my cock!
He missed last game for OKC, but he is not on the injury report, so we're expecting him to play in this one. Paddy Beverly's at 3,700. He's really barely playing since returning from injury, so that's not for me. While Dennis Schroeder has been lackluster, averaging 24 points in his last 5, so therefore his salary is relatively low. I think there's a good opportunity here for Schroeder to beat that, so I do like him. Chris Paul at 75 against one of his former teams looks to be a good cash option. Lou Williams at 5,900, always worth a tournament look. He dropped 41 last time out for the Clippers against the Sixers, but prior to that he'd been a little bit under, but I don't dislike him as an option here. While Reggie Jackson's been really putting in the big fantasy point per minute production performances. Didn't mean to have so many P's in that sentence, but it's really hard to trust a sub 20 minute Jackson to give us that value. Gilgeous-Alexander at $7,000. Also been a little bit down lately. His first time out against his former team, he had 30 points, which is all right. It's not great. The matchup is okay for Shea, but he's not a high priority. I'd prefer Schroeder and Paul over Gilgeous-Alexander here. While Lugens Dort.
Bort? Oh, come on, Bort? Mommy, buy me a license plate!
No, come along, Bort.
Are you talking to me?
No, my son is also named Bort.
I am indeed talking to you now, though, and he is not a good fantasy point producer. He's averaging just 14 points over the last 5, and with Gallinari returning, he probably plays a few fewer minutes. That doesn't make much sense, but anyway. Landry Shamet at 3,400. His minutes in production are way down. The Italian cock himself is at 5,900. Lock that in. Really happy with Gallinari at that price. While Paulie George at 71 looks to be back on track. Played 30 minutes against the Sixers. If the minutes restriction is over, that is a sensational price for Paul George. While the fun guy Kawhi Leonard,
I'm a fun guy.
He's at 92. Very fine for cash. I'm not sure there's much upside with George playing his 4 minutes, but still some okay value. Marcus Morris is not going to get it done for us. For your big man, Nerlens Noel, no, thank you. On to Steven Adams at 62, probably also a little bit too highly priced for me. Well, Ivica Zubats and Montrezl Harrell again. Harrell's been putting up some okay numbers, 30 plus over the last 3. It is really hard to trust what he's going to do on a night-to-night basis, but I don't completely dislike him from a cash perspective. Abdul Nadir, Jermichael Green, they're not really going to work for us as DFS options, I wouldn't believe. Let's move on now to the next game. We're looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves and the New Orleans Pelicans. An absolute insane total in this game, 247.5. The Pelicans are also favored by 11.5 points. Kendrick Williams is doubtful, of course. Karl Anthony Towns is also out. At point guard, D'Angelo Russell's at $9,000. He looks like a 40-point lock almost every night. If this is going to be as up-tempo as Vegas thinks it is, then that looks pretty good for D'Angelo. He looks good there, as does Lonzo Ball at 7,300. Lonzo, fresh off dropping 42 against the Lakers, and his last 3 against the Timberwolves have yielded 51 a pop. So that is really, really good stuff. Drew Holiday at 79. I'd rather take D'Angelo, and I'd rather take Lonzo over Drew Holiday here. Shooting guard Malik Beasley at $6,000. The shot has been way off of late, but he's getting those opportunities. And at $6,000, I think he's in play, especially for tournaments. Etuan Moore is taking the JJ Redick minutes, but I don't really care about that. Nor for Josh Okogie or Jarrett Culver. They're not moving the needle. At small forward, Ingram's at $7,800. Shot horribly against the Lakers, but prior to that, have been putting up 40s most nights. I think this is a great spot for him to be used as well. Keelan Martin, Jake Layman, probably not. Zion, $7,700 for Zion. He is a 40-point guy almost every night, so that looks like really good value against a team that can't stop him. While $5,200 for Derek Favors. Now, Favors, for all the criticism he's been getting, he's averaging 27 DraftKings points in his last 5 in only 25 minutes, and at $5,200, it's fine. It's absolutely fine for cash. Naz Reid's going to have some pretty big difficulty stopping him, but does Naz Reid's and James Johnson playing at the center, does that limit Favors' minutes? Well, he's been playing 24 a night regardless. It's more the bigger matchups where he pushes to 27, but I still think he's okay. Reid is just a GPP sort of a guy, while Mally is not really a DFS guy for us. Well, one show, Hernan Gomez at $5,500. He's getting us 30 a night at the moment, which is really good. Do I trust it? God, no. But there is at least some value there. And $4,800 for James Johnson. Really shit the bed last time out, but was playing okay. I'm just not sure he is a $4,800 price point sort of a player. Let us move on to the next game. It is the Golden State Warriors and the Denver Nuggets. A huge spread here. The Nuggets are 15-point favorites. The total is 216.5, one of the lowest totals of the day. Paul Millsap is questionable, while Draymond Green and Kevon Looney both missed last time out for Golden State. At point guard, the Blue Arrow, Jamal Murray, $6,700. The matchup's really, really good for him, but do the lower minutes mean he's a bit of a risk? Yeah, there is a bit of a risk there with Murray, but at $6,700, I do like him quite a bit in this one. Jordan Poole came off the bench last game, but still dropped 30. I think he's worth a look for cash regardless of if he starts or not, while Monty Morris's high minutes aren't really translating into sustained DFS success, so I think we can find better guys to look at. Draymond Green is not one of those at $6,400. That is an absolute strong stay away. At shooting guard, Gaz Harris.
Nice, Gary!
He's at $3,900. He's playing better. Is there enough upside value? Probably not. In him to take away from the low floor risk? Probably not. So, no. Farton Will-Barton is being marginalized at the moment. He's a tournament guy that can always go off, but on a game-to-game basis, the consistency is not there, nor is the production. So he is a absolute no-go cash guy. I like Damo Lee at 57. He's a strong floor cash play, while Andy Wiggins at 76. Look, even in the nights where he's shooting pretty poorly, he's still getting us 30 plus, which isn't far off. I think there are better guys out there, but he's still okay. While Michael Mulder, Fox had 36 points he had 27 points at 3,600. I think if we see that Draymond is out, that does give Fox a little bit of extra value. And by Fox, I mean Mulder. So at 3,600, he would be a tournament sort of a guy. At small forward, Mickey Porter at 4,300. If Millsap's out, yeah, maybe for tournaments, but even then, he's just not playing enough. While the triangle, Eric Pascal at 53. Love it for cash if Draymond happens to be sidelined. Otherwise, probably not. While Juan Toscano Anderson at 3,700, not the best DFS guy to me. Big Chungus Nikola Jokic at center, 9,400. Just smash the shit out of it. While Paul Millsap at 44 is questionable, I wouldn't want to use him. I am intrigued with Marquise Chris, but at 5,800, there is a little bit of upside taken away. But still, I think he's got value for cash formats, while Mason Plumlee is probably going to be a no-go. Kevon Looney, similarly, when Jeremy Grant, Jezza at 5,000. If Millsap's out, that is an absolute cash lock in that situation, but we don't know that at this point. Dragan Bender has started the last couple in place of Draymond Green. He's quite up and down, and is his upside actually high enough to take that risk? I think in most cases I would say no. Toronto and Phoenix, Serge Ibaka and Fred VanVleet are both questionable for the Raptors, while Kelly Oubre remains out for Phoenix. Cam Johnson's also popped up as being probable with a back hip contusion. Anytime I see hip with Cam Johnson, it's a worry. At point guard, Devin Booker's at 8,300. His recent production has not been good. I think he's a GPP guy, but that is it. While Van Vliet at 6,600. Price is coming down. I just think that they'll ease him back in his first game, but of course, Nurse doesn't really believe in easing back in. So maybe Fred at 66 would be a GPP option. Ravishing Rick Rubio. He'd been excellent, but he shit the bed last game. He's at 7,200. Tough defensive matchup. I'll pass. While Lowry at 81. I think this might be a bit of a blowout, so I think we'll leave Lowry alone. Javon Carter, Terrence Davis, Pat McCaw. No interest in those guys. For your shooting guards, we're looking at McCall Bridges at 5,400. Love it. Love it for cash. Good cash tournament value as well. Well, Geordie McRae, claimed by the Suns. I don't know if he's going to play. Will they give him minutes over Javon Carter or Elie Okobo? It's a big question. But otherwise, there could be 15 to 20 minutes there for McRae as a minimum salary guy. If we do hear that he's active and likely to be part of the rotation, yeah, I don't completely hate him to just drop a weird 20 or 21 pointer. There is at least some value to at least know that he's there. Storm and Norman Powell's at 57. If Van Vliet's out, I think that's really good value. He's getting a shit ton of minutes and a shit ton of shots. Freddie coming back would impact that, and that would fade me away from Norman Powell. For your small forward, you're looking at Cam Johnson, and then you're looking elsewhere onto Dario Saric, and then you're also looking elsewhere. Actually, to be fair to Saric, he did have 29 points in 28 minutes, and at 5,000, you'd classify that as a win. Maybe we look at him as a tournament guy. And then we go to, of course, the bold one, the Jedi.
Hello there.
OG Anunoby, he dropped 61 last game. He has 13 steals in his last 2 games. He's shooting out of his absolute mind. Now, the minutes do go up with Ibaka out. He's up to 6,500. I have zero trust in that at all. I wouldn't want to use it. At center, Ayton, 8,400. He's a 40-point guy most nights. I like it. Ibaka at 61. If he plays, there is a bit of a risk in that given that he is injured. So I think we'd probably leave him alone. Bainesy, no. Chris Boucher, the water boy, 3,200, no. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson at 4,600, only be a tournament guy in the situation that Ibaka does happen to be ruled out. But Hollis-Jefferson does not put up consistent good games as a starter. The Wizards and the Kings. The Kings are 5.5-point favorites in Sacramento, and the total here is 232.5. De'Aaron Fox is probable with that abdominal issue, while Corey Joseph is questionable with a heel problem. At point guard, Fox is at 8,000. He's been playing well. I don't think he's been playing that well, but the matchup does suit him against the Wizards, so I think we look at him as at least an option for tournaments, while Shabazz Napier at 48, still only getting those 24 to 25 minutes, which isn't quite enough. Same with Ish Smith, probably going to fade off of those two blokes. At shooting guard, Bud Hield's at 55. I think the tournament upside's low for Hield at the moment, but for cash, he's getting it done. While Bogdanovic at 54, give me Hield at 55 over Bogdanovic. Brad Beal dominating at the moment, 10,400. That is an absolutely huge whack for Beal, but this bloke's averaging 63 points over his last 5. And that is, of course, fantastic value at 10,400. I think we look at him as at least someone to use. Kent Bazemore at 48 is probably too high. Troy Brown is just not getting enough playing time. And my 30-deep team desperately needs Troy Brown to play more. At small forward, the pencil Harrison Barnes. Barnesy. He's at 5,400. Even in some of the shit games, he's getting that 25-26 mark, so I don't hate it for cash. And the up-tempo Wizards team does give you a bit of a boost there. Not a real high tournament sort of a player, though. While for your big man, Alex Len was great last time. He's at 4,300. We just don't know how the Len and Giles minutes are going to go. 4,300 for Lenny, probably more of a GPP guy. The Tank Tom Bryant started last game but didn't get to 20 minutes. He is at 3,800 and he exceeded 20 points. That's actually a win. So I think that he is at least a GPP guy, because if he pushes to 20 minutes and gets 25 points, it is a huge, huge victory at that low salary. Hachimura's at 53. I'm not massively interested in that. Maybe for cash it works. Well, Giles at 56. You wouldn't want to use Giles and Len together, and I think 56 is probably a little bit too high for Giles at this point. No love for Anzej Pasechniks, surprisingly. The last game of the night we're going to look at here is the Philadelphia 76ers and the Lakers. The Lakers are 11.5-point favorites, and the total is 220. Anthony Davis and Alex Caruso both missed last game for the Lakers. I expect both of those guys to play here. Joshie Richardson has been ruled out with a concussion, and of course Simmons and Embiid are both still sidelined. At point guard, Alec Burks at 4,400. I don't know if he'll start. In fact, I think that Furky from Turkey will start, but Burks should get more minutes, and at 44, I like that quite a bit. Shake Milton at 6,300. Can't find my button now to play the sound for him. Ah, yes. Milton averaging 42 in the last 3. Can't miss shots. You have to look at him as an option, but that is an $1,100 price rise, which takes a little bit away from him. LeBron's at 11.4 because he is dominating.
LeBron James.
He should be a 55-point guy. 11.40 is probably a little high, but I don't completely dislike it. Alex Caruso, no. Thank you. Bradley, Rondo, of course not. Furky from Turkey's at 4,000. He has some cash value, but more importantly, some big tournament upside. Dan Green's not one for us, nor is KCP or the painter Matisse Thybulle. The little dog Glenn Robinson should start again, but he is averaging 8 points in his last 3, so safe to say I'm not all that interested. While Toby Harris at 8-2, he's a 40-point guy almost every night. It's looking pretty good for me for Toby Harris to be an option for us. The future MVP, Kyle Kuzma's at 5,100. If Davis is out, that works. If Davis is in, it does not work. For your big men, Tone Davis, 9,900. That is real smashable numbers there to me. If he plays, while Horford at 7,000 with no Embiid also works okay. Now, the problem I have there is just the Lakers matchup, but I still think Horf can get it done. Dwight and JaVale, only want to use JaVale as a tournament guy if Davis does happen to miss, which is not an eventuality that I think is going to come true. If we have a look now over on FanDuel at some options over there, we're looking at Caleb and Cody Martin again, Fox and Beasley, Devin Booker, Dennis Schroeder, Miles Bridges, Zion, Favors, Korkmaz, Gilgeous-Alexander, D'Angelo Russell, Hayward and Burks, Rozier, Chris Paul, Ingram, Horford, and DeMar DeRozan. Guys, that will do it for me today. Don't forget, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Myers Leonard.